The discovery. Dr. Elena Martinez wasn't expecting to break the universe on a Tuesday morning. The quantum resonance lab at the Pacific Institute for Advanced Physics was usually quiet this early, with only the soft hum of equipment and the occasional beep of monitoring systems. But today, something was different. The quantum field detector was showing readings that made absolutely no sense. "James, are you seeing this?" Elena called out to her research partner, Dr. James Chen, who was already hurrying over from his workstation, coffee forgotten on his desk. "That's impossible," he muttered, adjusting his glasses as he stared at the holographic display. The quantum particles they were studying weren't just exhibiting superposition. They were actively existing in multiple states simultaneously, without collapsing when observed. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle. This violates everything we know about quantum mechanics. The experimental chamber in front of them, a crystalline structure surrounded by superconducting rings, pulsed with an otherworldly blue light. What had started as a routine test of their new quantum computing architecture had somehow stumbled into territory that defied the fundamental laws of physics. Elena's fingers flew across the holographic interface, bringing up multiple data streams. "Look at these readings. The particles aren't just existing in multiple states. They're creating stable bridges between them. It's like they're punching holes in reality itself." Before James could respond, a deep thrumming filled the lab. The air itself seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt, but with a geometric precision that felt distinctly artificial. The security systems began blaring warnings about spatial anomalies, but Elena barely heard them. She was transfixed by what was happening in front of her. The ripples in the air coalesced into a perfect sphere, about 2 meters in diameter. Through its transparent surface, they could see what appeared to be another version of their lab, but with subtle differences. Equipment was in slightly different positions, and there was an empty coffee cup on Elena's desk where she knew she hadn't put one. "We need to shut it down," James said, reaching for the emergency protocols. But Elena caught his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Look at the containment readings. It's stable. Whatever this is, we're not in any immediate danger." As if in response to her words, a new set of readings appeared on their screens, but these hadn't come from any of their systems. The characters were unlike anything they'd ever seen, shifting and changing until they resolved into English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. Please do not be alarmed. You have achieved something remarkable." Elena and James exchanged glances. First contact wasn't exactly what they'd expected from their quantum computing experiment. The message continued. "We are the Voidborn Alliance, and we have been watching your species with great interest. What you have just discovered, quite by accident, we note with some amusement, is dimensional phase technology. You are now at a crucial juncture in your species' development." "This is impossible," James muttered, but he was already running scans on the phenomenon, his scientific curiosity overriding his disbelief. The energy requirements for something like this should be astronomical. "That's precisely what makes your discovery so remarkable." The message responded, apparently able to hear them. "Your method is elegant, efficient, and dangerous." The sphere rippled, and suddenly they could see through it more clearly. On the other side stood a being that defied easy description. Its form seemed to shift between states, sometimes humanoid, sometimes geometric, always maintaining a strange sort of symmetry. "I am Observer Action," the being said, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "And I regret to inform you that your discovery has placed your species in considerable danger." Elena stepped forward, her heart racing, but her voice steady. "Danger from whom?" "The Symmetry Collective," Axion replied. "They believe the universe operates according to immutable constants, your method of achieving dimensional phase technology. It breaks their most fundamental beliefs. They will come, and they will attempt to erase this discovery, along with your entire species, if necessary." James had pulled up more data on their screens. "Elena, look at this. The way we achieve the phase state. It's because we weren't trying to break through dimensions. We were trying to network quantum states, and somehow you found a backdoor in reality itself. Axion finished. Most species spend centuries theorizing before attempting practical applications. Humans, you simply tried something because you didn't know it was impossible. The lab's security systems finally kicked in, and Dr. Sarah Wong, the facility's security chief, burst in with her team. She took one look at the dimensional portal and the alien being, and, to her credit, simply asked, "How bad is it?" "Your species has approximately 3 months before the Symmetry Collective arrives," Axion said. "They will come with technology far beyond your current capabilities, with the singular goal of maintaining what they see as universal order." Elena looked at the quantum resonance chamber, then at her calculations, then at Axion. 3 months to prepare for an advanced alien civilization that wants to wipe us out because we found a more efficient way to do something they thought was impossible. Correct. A smile spread across Elena's face, the kind of smile that had preceded some of humanity's greatest breakthroughs and most audacious achievements. Then we better get to work. James, call every quantum physicist on the planet. Sarah, we're going to need military coordination. If the collective wants to teach us about impossible things, she turned back to her equations, already seeing new possibilities. We'll show them that impossible is what humans do best. First contact and warning. 1 month after the quantum resonance breakthrough, the Pacific Institute had transformed from a quiet research facility into humanity's front line of defense. The once pristine lab now hummed with activity as scientists and military personnel worked side by side, racing against time. Elena stood before the Joint Chiefs of Staff in an improvised command center, gesturing to a holographic display of their latest test results. The dimensional phase technology doesn't just allow us to exist in multiple states, it lets us choose which laws of physics we want to follow. General Sarah Chen, newly appointed head of Earth's Dimensional Defense Initiative, leaned forward. "Explain it in practical terms, Doctor." "Imagine reality as a book," Elena said, creating a simple hologram. "Most species treat the laws of physics like the text. They have to follow the story as written. We found a way to treat them more like suggestions. We can edit the text." James stepped forward, adding his own data to the display. "The Voidborn Alliance has been sharing information about the Symmetry Collective. They're powerful, yes, but they're predictable. They follow the established laws of physics with religious devotion. And that's their weakness," Elena finished. "They can't conceive of breaking the rules, which means they won't be prepared for someone who does." A new voice joined the conversation as a dimensional portal shimmered into existence. Observer Axion emerged, their form settling into something vaguely humanoid. "Your progress continues to surprise us. Most species take decades to grasp basic dimensional manipulation. You've managed it in weeks." General Chen's hand instinctively moved toward her sidearm before relaxing. "Observer, you still haven't fully explained why the collective poses such a threat. Their technology may be advanced, but surely." "Show them," Axion said quietly. The dimensional portal expanded, showing a scene that made everyone in the room fall silent. A distant star system, once teeming with life, reduced to its constituent atoms. The collected ships, massive crystalline structures that ignored conventional geometry, methodically erased what they considered irregular variations in spacetime. They believed that the universe must follow strict mathematical principles. Axion explained, "Your method of achieving dimensional phase technology introduces too many variables. In their view, you're not just breaking the rules. You're proving the rules can be broken." Elena watched the destruction with a mix of horror and determination. "Then we need to be ready. James, show them Project Horizon." James nodded, bringing up schematics for what looked like a naval destroyer, but covered in quantum resonance chambers and dimensional stabilizers. "We're calling it the U.S. Impossible. First of its kind. A ship that can actively rewrite local physics. Impossible is the right word, General Chen said, studying the designs. The power requirements alone are solved, Elena interrupted. That's the beauty of our approach. We don't need massive amounts of power because we're not forcing our way through dimensions. We're suggesting that reality would work better if it did what we wanted. Axian's form flickered with what might have been amusement. You're treating universal constants like a democracy. More like a negotiation, James said, and it turns out reality is surprisingly open to new ideas. The room's attention shifted as alarms began blaring. A junior officer rushed in, tablet in hand. General, we're detecting dimensional disturbances at the edge of the solar system. Small ones, but they match the collective's signature. Scouts, Axian confirmed. They're testing your defenses, analyzing how your reality responds to manipulation. Elena smiled, the same smile that had preceded the original breakthrough. Then let's give them something to analyze. General, permission to activate the Impossible's prototype drive. General Chen looked at the destruction shown in Axian's portal, then at the confident faces of her scientists. Do it. Show us what impossible looks like. The U.S. Impossible rose from its hidden dock in the Pacific, its quantum resonance chambers humming to life. As the scouts from the Symmetry Collective approached, they detected something that, according to their fundamental understanding of reality, could not exist. A ship that wasn't just breaking the laws of physics, but casually suggesting better ones. The scouts retreated almost immediately, their crystalline forms vibrating with what might have been confusion or fear. Elena watched them go, knowing that the real battle was yet to come. They'll be back, Axian warned, and they'll bring their full fleet. Good, Elena said, reviewing the data from their first encounter. Because now we know something important. They can't even comprehend what we're doing. And in a fight, not understanding your enemy's capabilities is the first step to defeat. General Chen finished. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Chen, you have 2 months to turn impossible into our standard operating procedure. Don't let us down. As the meeting adjourned, Elena caught James's eye. They both knew that humanity's greatest advantage wasn't their technology or their discoveries. It was their ability to look at the fundamental rules of the universe and ask, yes, but what if we didn't? The Symmetry Collective was about to learn a harsh lesson. When humans say something is impossible, it's not a limitation. It's a challenge. Project Horizon. Dimensional breach in 3, 2, 1. The U.S. Impossible didn't just move through space. It rewrote it. The ship's quantum resonance chambers pulsed with blue-white energy as it executed a maneuver that should have torn it apart. Instead, it existed in 3 places simultaneously, each version slightly different, all of them equally real. Commander Maya Patel stood on the bridge, watching as her crew handled the impossible with practiced ease. 6 weeks of training had turned theoretical physics into muscle memory. Status report, she called out. All 3 phase states stable, Commander. Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez reported from the Quantum Dynamics Station. Reality coherence at 94% and holding. Maya nodded, remembering Elena's words during their first training session. Don't think of it as breaking physics. Think of it as suggesting better options. The crew had taken to it surprisingly well, especially the younger officers who'd grown up playing video games. Multiple realities, just like managing different spawn points. Quantum uncertainty, no different than calculating random damage in an RPG. Message from Project Horizon Command, her communications officer announced. Dr. Martinez is ready for the next phase of testing. Through the bridge's dimensional viewport, a window that showed multiple layers of reality simultaneously, Maya could see the rest of humanity's nascent defense fleet. 5 more ships had joined the impossible, each incorporating improvements based on their ongoing discoveries. The U.S. Paradox, designed for pure speed, could move faster than light not by breaking Einstein's laws, but by politely suggesting that C was more of a guideline really. The U.S. Schrödinger specialized in quantum warfare, existing in so many states simultaneously that targeting it was mathematically impossible. The U.S. Murphy's Law weaponized probability itself. All ships. This is Project Horizon Command. Elena's voice came through clear on all frequencies and all dimensional phases. Today's test will push the boundaries of what we thought possible. The collective scouts have been watching. Let's give them something to really worry about. Maya turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Chung, initialize the reality anchor. The ship's newest system powered up, a device that could temporarily lock down local physics, forcing them to behave according to human expectations rather than universal constants. It was the kind of technology that made the Symmetry Collective scouts retreat in what could only be described as mathematical horror. Reality anchor stable, Chang reported. Local physics locked to human standard parameters. Execute formation Delta 7, Maya ordered. Let's show them our version of impossible. The 6 ships moved in perfect synchronization, each one manipulating reality in a slightly different way. The impossible led the formation, creating a bubble of altered physics that the other ships could work within. The paradox accelerated to speeds that should have turned it into energy, but instead left elegant ripples in space-time. The Schrödinger phased between dimensions so quickly it appeared to dance. Observer actions form appeared on the bridge, their crystalline structure reflecting the multiple realities they traversed. The collective's reaction to these tests has been unprecedented. They're actually arguing among themselves about how to respond. Good, Maya said, watching as her ships executed maneuvers that defied every law of physics the collective held sacred. That means they're starting to understand what they're dealing with. A warning tone sounded throughout the ship. Commander, Rodriguez called out, we're detecting dimensional distortions at the edge of the solar system, much larger than the scout vessels. They're coming, Axion confirmed. The collective has decided they can't allow this to continue. Their main fleet will arrive within days. Maya smiled, the same kind of smile that had appeared on human faces throughout history, just before they did something that everyone else thought was impossible. How many ships? Thousands. Axion replied, each one capable of erasing entire star systems. Perfect, Maya said, turning to her crew. Send word to Project Horizon Command. Tell them it's time to implement Protocol Impossibility. As her order was relayed, she could see Elena's latest creation rising from its hidden construction yard on Mars. The U.S. reality break was unlike anything humanity had built before, a ship designed not just to bend physics, but to fundamentally redefine them. The collective was coming with thousands of ships that could unmake reality. Humanity would meet them with 6 ships that could remake it. The odds were overwhelming. The enemy vastly more advanced, victory seemingly impossible. In other words, it was exactly the kind of fight humans were best at. All ships, Maya broadcast across all frequencies and dimensional phases. This is Commander Patel. In 3 days, we're going to teach the most advanced civilization in the galaxy why humans don't believe in impossible. Ready fleet for final combat drills. As her ships moved into formation, she remembered something Elena had said during their first successful test. The best part about impossible things is that they're only impossible until someone does them. After that, they're just history. In 3 days, they would make history, or rewrite it, if necessary. The Battle of Saul. They arrived as predicted. Thousands of crystalline ships emerging from dimensional rifts, their very presence causing reality to shiver. The Symmetry Collective's fleet filled the space between Mars and Jupiter, each vessel larger than anything humanity had ever built, their forms following perfect mathematical patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. In contrast, Earth's defense fleet consisted of just 6 ships, 6 impossible ships. The collective is broadcasting. Lieutenant Rodriguez announced on the Impossible's bridge. All frequencies, all dimensional phases. Commander Maya Patel nodded. Let's hear what impossible sounds like. The voice that filled the bridge seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, speaking in harmonics that shouldn't have existed in normal space. This is Arction's supreme omega of the Symmetry Collective. Your violations of universal constants cannot be permitted to continue. Surrender your dimensional technology and accept reality alignment, or be erased. Maya exchanged glances with Elena Martinez, who had insisted on being present for humanity's first major dimensional battle. The scientist gave a slight nod. "This is Commander Maya Patul of Earth's Defense Fleet," she responded. "We have a counter-proposal. Watch this." She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "Execute Protocol Impossibility. All ships, initiate reality anchors." The 6 human ships moved in perfect formation, each one activating technology that the collective had deemed impossible. The U.S. Impossible led the charge, creating a bubble of altered physics that spread outward like a wave. The U.S. Paradox accelerated to speeds that made light look sluggish, leaving trails of quantum possibility in its wake. The U.S. Schrödinger split into so many quantum states that it appeared to be everywhere at once. The collective fleet responded with overwhelming force, firing weapons that could unmake matter at the quantum level. But something strange happened. Their attacks simply didn't work. "Reality anchors holding," Rodriguez reported, a note of triumph in her voice. "Local physics are locked to human parameters. Their weapons are trying to follow universal constants that we're simply choosing not to acknowledge." The collective ships began to move, their perfect crystalline forms attempting to surround the human fleet. But the U.S. Murphy's Law was ready, its systems calculating probability curves and suggesting to reality that the enemy ships would be more interesting if they experienced unexpected equipment failures. "They're trying to adapt," Elena observed, watching the tactical displays. "But they can't comprehend what we're doing. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that physics has rules that must be followed." "Then let's show them why humans make the best rule breakers," Maya said. "Signal the reality break. It's time for the main event." The U.S. reality break, humanity's newest and most ambitious vessel, moved into position. Unlike the other ships which merely bent physics, the reality break was designed to completely redefine it. Its quantum resonance chambers powered up, creating a field that didn't just ignore the laws of physics, it rewrote them. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Within the reality break's influence, the fundamental forces of the universe began operating according to human preferences rather than universal constants. Collective weapons that relied on precise mathematical principles simply ceased to function. Their perfectly organized formation became a liability as local space decided that maybe gravity should work differently for a while. "Impossible." The Arction Supreme's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You cannot simply change how reality works." "Actually," Elena replied, taking the comm, "we just did. You see, that's the difference between us. You look at the laws of physics and say, these cannot be broken. We look at them and say, well, has anyone tried asking nicely?" The battle that followed would have been impossible to describe using normal physics, because normal physics had taken a coffee break. Human ships danced through dimensions, suggesting new and interesting ways that reality could work. The collective's mighty fleet found itself fighting an enemy that didn't just break the rules, they rewrote them mid-battle. "They're pulling back," Rodriguez reported, multiple ships showing signs of confusion. "I think we've literally broken their understanding of how the universe works." Maya watched as the massive collective fleet began to retreat, their perfect formations dissolving as they encountered phenomena that their mathematical models said couldn't exist. "Send final message to the Arction Supreme," she ordered. "This is humanity's formal response to your demand for surrender. The universe is not a set of unchangeable rules. It's a conversation. And humans, we're very good at starting interesting conversations." As the last of the collective ships vanished into dimensional rifts, Elena turned to Maya with a grin. "Do you think they'll be back?" "Eventually," Maya replied. "But next time, they'll have to face an uncomfortable truth. In a battle between those who follow the rules and those who rewrite them, bet on the rule breakers. Breaking reality's rules. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, the quantum resonance lab at the Pacific Institute looked very different. Where once there had been a single experimental chamber, now there stood a massive dimensional mapping array. And today, it was detecting something new. "They're back," Elena announced, watching as familiar dimensional signatures appeared at the edge of the solar system. But something's different this time. Instead of thousands of ships, a single crystalline vessel emerged from a dimensional rift. Its form was different from the previous collective designs, less rigid, more organic, almost as if. "They're learning," James said, studying the readings. "They're actually adapting their technology." Commander Maya Patel, now Admiral after the Battle of Seoul, stood with them in the lab. "Is this a threat?" Before anyone could answer, a transmission cut through all frequencies, all dimensions, but this time the voice was different. Gone were the harsh mathematical harmonics, replaced by something almost conversational. "This is Representative Tao of the Reformed Symmetry Collective," the voice announced. "We request dialogue." Elena, James, and Maya exchanged glances. Through their dimensional viewers, they could see that the crystalline ship was maintaining a respectful distance, its form shifting slightly, almost nervously. "This is Admiral Maya Patel of Earth," Maya responded. "We're listening." "The Battle of Seoul has changed us," Ta said. "For eons, we believed the universe operated on immutable laws. Your species showed us something we had never considered, that reality itself could be negotiable." Elena stepped forward. "You tried to erase us because we broke your rules. Why come back?" "Because you did more than break rules," Ta replied. "You proved that our fundamental understanding of reality was incomplete. The collective has spent these months in philosophical crisis." The crystalline ship's form shifted again, and through the dimensional viewers, they could see it was attempting to mimic some of the reality-bending techniques humanity had demonstrated. "We were wrong," Ta continued, and the admission seemed to cause actual physical distortion in the ship's structure. "The universe is not a set of unchangeable mathematical principles. It is, as you said, a conversation. We would like to join that conversation." James studied the readings from the ship. "They're actually doing it. They're attempting to replicate our reality suggestion approach rather than their usual brute force methods." "Not very successfully," Elena noted with a slight smile. "Their mathematics are still too rigid, too focused on perfection rather than possibility." "That is why we are here," Ta said. "We propose an exchange. Your species has an intuitive understanding of how to negotiate with reality. Our species has millions of years of dimensional mathematics and technology. Together we could rewrite the rules of the universe." Elena finished, her eyes lighting up with the possibilities. Maya raised an eyebrow. "You understand this would mean accepting that sometimes 2 + 2 = 5. "Only if you ask nicely," Ta replied. And there was something in the harmonic pattern that might have been humor. "We are learning that mathematics is more interesting when it is treated as a creative art rather than an absolute law." Over the next few hours, as the details of the exchange were discussed, Elena found herself reflecting on humanity's journey. In less than a year, they had gone from accidentally discovering dimensional phase technology to teaching one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy how to think outside their mathematical box. "There's just one thing I don't understand," Maya said to Tao as they finalized the agreements. "Why did you choose to adapt rather than simply trying to overwhelm us with your superior numbers and technology?" The crystalline ship rippled, and what they had learned was their equivalent of contemplative amusement. "Because you showed us something terrible and wonderful. That impossible is not a fact, but merely an opinion. And opinions can be changed." As the first joint human collective research teams began their work, Elena stood with James in their old lab, looking at the quantum resonance chamber where it all began. "You know what this means?" she asked. "We didn't just change the laws of physics. We changed a civilization that had spent millions of years believing those laws couldn't be changed." James nodded. Because that's what humans do best. We don't just break the rules. We make breaking them into an art form. Above them, through the dimensional viewers, they could see human and collective ships beginning their first joint maneuvers. The crystalline vessels were already starting to show signs of human influence, their perfect mathematical forms now incorporating elements of creative chaos. So, Elena said, pulling up a new set of equations, "Shall we show them how to turn the impossible into the merely improbable?" "Let's," James replied. "After all, reality's rules aren't going to break themselves." And as they began their work, somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, reality itself seemed to smile. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting for someone to come along and suggest some interesting new ways it could work. It just needed a species creative enough, or crazy enough, to start the conversation. Humanity, as usual, was happy to volunteer for the job.